Hey guys, this is 3Godzilla3, the Master of Sonic, and today we'll be going over how to set up pretty much every emulator you can think of, with the exception of a few, on your newly made PC, and how to organize them in this front end called Launchbox. Now, before I get started here, guys, the only emulators that I won't be covering in this video will be Wii U, 3DS, and Switch. There are separate videos on YouTube that explain in detail how to do those exactly right. Wii U is probably the hardest I've seen when it comes to that stuff, so I won't be covering it in this video, but this method that I'll be showing you guys here, how to organize your games with Launchbox, you can also do with those consoles as well. But without further ado, let's get started here. So the first things first, you will want to do is download Launchbox. Launchbox is basically a front end where you can organize every game that you have, every ROM, every emulator, and a very neat little package here. And as you can see, I'm just going to scroll down here real quick. You can see how all these games are organized based on consoles. And honestly, it's probably the coolest thing ever. And directly from Launchbox, you can launch your games through whatever emulator it's tied to. That way you don't have to, like, I guess, find the emulator yourself in some folder or something, and then open the ROM and file open, stuff like that. So to avoid all that hassle, Launchbox is a very convenient platform. You can just organize your games, right click on it, and then hit play, and that's it. It'll open up the emulator and it'll play your games for you, and it's pretty awesome. So download Launchbox. There's two forms of Launchbox. There's Launchbox and there's Big Box. And now Big Box is something you have to purchase. It's like $30 for lifetime, okay, for a whole year. It'll give you more customizable options and stuff like that. But Launchbox, as it is, this is what it looks like. And if you guys just want a platform for your games to be organized, this is it, right? So I'm going to explain that first. We'll get into Big Box later, but this is how it works, okay? So we'll start with the Windows games first, Steam games. Okay, Steam games. If I'm being super honest, guys, if I would save Launchbox purely for other emulators that's not Windows games or Steam games, right? The reason why is because on Steam everything's organized already for you, so I don't really see a reason why you would need another front end to, I guess, launch your games from. I don't know, but the reason I say that is because setting Launchbox up with Steam can be kind of difficult. It's not too complex or hard or anything. It's just a longer process. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to explain how you guys can do it. That way you guys can get it organized in here, how I have it set up. So first things first, once you open up Launchbox, the first thing it's going to ask you is what things you want to import. Okay, and let me see here. If you go to this menu bar, you'll get a list of options, how to launch Big Box, Cloud. If you go to Tools here, you go to Import. From here, so when you first open up Launchbox, these are the options it's going to give you. You can choose to import ROM files, to import Amazon games, Epic Games, Steam games, all that stuff, right? So if the first games that you want to import to Launchbox are Steam games, then you just click Steam games, okay? And it's going to bring up this menu wizard here. And first thing you'll do is just hit Next. This is where it gets kind of complicated, okay? In Steam, you're able to make a custom URL with this custom number that you can make for it. I think it's just so that people can easily find your page if they want to add you and stuff. I don't really know the exact purpose of why you need a custom ID or custom URL or anything like that, but this is what you need in order to make this work. So in order to do that, you just go to Steam and you click on your name, you go to Profile, and then you go to Edit Profile. Now, when you go to Edit Profile, there's going to be a box where it shows the custom URL that you can put in. It can be anything. It can be a mix of numbers. I think it's primarily numbers. I don't think you can use letters or anything like that. But there's a number already pre-filled out. What I did was I just used the number that was already listed, and I just removed like 2 digits, and I hit save at the bottom, and it just worked. Okay, you guys can use any mix of numbers that you want. Just know that chances are it's going to be taken already, so just make it unique to you, and write it down somewhere so that you'll remember. If you don't, then you can always just click Edit Profile again, and it'll show you your custom URL, right? So once you guys make that, you're going to put that number that you put after the ID in here, and then you're going to hit Next. And now you have to make a Steam API key. So basically what this is it allows Launchbox to directly connect to your Steam account, and it just pre-fills in every game that you have in your catalog. It's actually pretty cool. The only thing is, in order to make this, you have to click on this link here. So you just click on that link, it'll be asked you to sign in. So you just sign in here, and then once you sign in, it's going to ask you to make a domain name. Uh, you're probably wondering, okay, but I don't have a domain. That doesn't make sense. How do I make that, right? If it asks you for your domain name, then don't fret. This guy right here in a Steam forum was like, just put in 127.0.0.1, and when you hit next, then it'll give you an API key. It'll generate one for you. Okay, so just use this number when it asks you for the domain name, and you hit next, and it'll make you an API key. So once you get that key, you just copy and paste it here, and then once you hit next, it'll automatically basically just fill up the catalog here with all your Steam games. Okay, so that's it. That's how you do that. It's relatively straightforward. That's the reason why I didn't recommend that you guys just do that, because you have to go to the hassle of making all that I just mentioned. And I don't know. The reason I did it is because I like seeing all my Windows games organized like this. So, um, but yeah. If you guys have questions on how to do that, just leave a comment down below and I'll try to help. Um, there's also another way to download Windows games primarily, like things that you don't get off Steam, if you know what I mean. Okay. To do that, you go to Tools, Import. Um, by the way, once you guys choose whatever, if you guys choose Steam games first and you do that process first, it's going to take you to this page and it'll have all this pre-filled out with your games and stuff. It's going to start loading in metadata. Now, what that is it allows the program to basically go on the web and search for all the cover art, the box art, the back cover art, the disc images, stuff like that. And it's actually pretty cool. It just pulls it straight from the internet. That way you don't have to go into each individual thing and like put a picture for it or anything like that. It just does it automatically. And it does that for whatever game that you put in here. So if you guys decided to do Steam first to put all your catalog of games here, it'll take you to this page, and then all this left side here will be empty pretty much, and you have to add each emulator in individually along with the games and stuff. So we're going to do that real quick. Before I do that, let me show you guys how to import Windows games that aren't directly from Steam. So you're going to go to Tools, Import, and you're going to go to Windows games. Well, actually, no, not Windows games. You're going to manually add the game. Okay. And then, so from here, what you do is you'll type the name of the game. So let's just use, I don't know, Sonic Generations. And then search for metadata, and it's going to bring up this box. Now, obviously, it shows the Windows version of it. Okay, so the Windows version of whatever game that you're pulling up is the ideal one, right? So just to put another example here, Spyro Reignited Trilogy. You hit search for metadata, and there you go, boom. You get the Windows version, right? So you're going to click on it, and it's going to pre-fill in all this information for you already, okay? The only other thing you have to worry about is, let me see here, where it says launching, you have to find out the path where your game is stored in, okay? So for me, for example, if I go to Browse, go to where my games are stored. Where are my games stored again? Right here. Okay, so yeah, you go to PC Games, well, wherever your game is stored, basically. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on the .exe file of the game, the launcher for it. You're going to hit open, and it should show up here. Trying to think of what else there is. I'm 90% sure that's all you have to fill out here, guys. Because once you hit OK, it's going to start asking you for the metadata and stuff like that. And if you just keep hitting next, then it'll pull up all the information you need for the game, and it's just gonna show up here. Okay. For example, one of the games I did it for was Final Fantasy 13. So let me click on Edit here, and yeah, all I did was just pull up the game. I searched for it. Let me see. Yeah, I went to Launcher. I found the exe file where it was saved in, and once I hit OK, it'll let me. Actually, no, hold on. Yeah, I went to Images. And then I clicked on Download Media. Now this is what it'll pull up all the box art for. The front of the box art, basically everything you need. The clear logo, everything, right? There's a reason for why all this is here, and I'm gonna explain to it once I get to explaining how Big Box works. Okay, but every game that you download onto this thing is gonna be pre-filled in with all these graphic pictures of the game itself. Now, you have the option of not doing that. You can uncheck it and stuff, but I don't know why you'd want to. I don't know. Like, having these here is cool. For Launchbox, I don't think it makes much of a difference to have these, but for Big Box, it definitely does. So, um, but yeah, definitely. So, yeah, so first things first, you do the name of the game, you search for the metadata, it pre-fills in all this. You go to images, you download media, and it's going to download everything pretty much from the internet on all the pictures that it needs. And then you go to launching, and you find the exe file it's saved in. You hit OK, and then it'll be saved on Launchbox here. Okay. Sorry if that sounded complicated. I thought that sounded easier in my head, if I'm being honest. But that's the only way to get a Windows game on here that's not from Steam, right? Yeah, that's it. And then let's move on to NES. I'm just gonna go down the list here, guys, on every emulator that I have. Like I said, no 3DS, Wii U, or Switch. Those are for separate videos. Okay. So we're gonna start with NES. The best NES emulator, in my honest opinion, is man, what was it called? You know, you'd think I'd know this stuff. Nestopia UE. That's what it's called. And yeah, I don't know if it's a better build of Nestopia, but basically it's awesome, guys. It's the best one. Nestopia UE. I'm gonna try to have the links for all these emulators in the description box. That way, you guys can just go to them and download it without any hassle. But yeah, Nestopia UE is the definitive NES emulator. At the end of this video, I'm going to show a gameplay of each of these emulators just to show you guys how well they run, and it's going to be really cool. But if you guys want to add a new emulator, what you're going to do is you're going to go to, or well, just games in general, right? Go to this menu here, Tools, Import, and then go to ROM files instead. Okay, so ROM files is what you're going to be using for pretty much all this. Okay, the only option for manual uploading a game is for a Windows game that's not from Steam. Okay, so you'll get this wizard again. You hit next. Now you can do one of two things. You can put all your games or your ROMs into one file, and or I'm sorry, in one folder, and just click on the folder, and it's going to automatically put in all those games in for you. If you guys get to a point where you're adding more games to your folder, it's not going to automatically come up in Launchbox. What you'll have to do is you'll have to go back to this screen here, or this box, and you're going to click on Add Files, and then you just individually click on the games that you added and stuff like that. Or you can just make another folder with the new games you added and just click on Add Folder, right? Either one of them works. So, for example, my games are stored on my hard drive here. Um, Let's see, where are my NES games? Right here. So all my NES games are stored in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the folder, select folder, there you go. And then you hit next. Now it's going to ask you what platform are you importing games for. In this case it's NES. Sometimes it'll automatically recognize it for you, depending on what files you guys put in this case it did, so just put Nintendo Entertainment System. In the case that it doesn't, you can just manually type it, or you can click on this drop down and you can select what emulator you're trying to get, or what console you're trying to emulate, basically. So yeah, pick your console, you hit next, and then always click manually configure emulator, because we have to find what emulator we want these to open with. Okay. In this case, I already have mine added. I have Nestopia added here, but when you guys start, you won't have this. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit add, and you're going to put in the name of the emulator. Sometimes it pre-fills in the name of the emulator already. In this case, it did for me, Nestopia, which is fine. But sometimes, for example, when we get to the DS later, most people use Desmume or Desmume. I don't know how to say that, but I use Melon DS, right? So when I was adding in my DS games, it pre-filled it to Desmume when I was going to use Melon DS. So if it doesn't say your emulator here, then you can just erase this and then just write in whatever you need, right? So yeah, just put the name of the emulator in here. You're gonna browse for the application path, so you have to find where your emulator's .exe is, right? I save all of mine in the same drive that all my ROMs are in. In this case, it's right here, right? Nestopia.exe. You just open that, and it'll pre-fill in this application path here. And once you do that, you have to go to associated platforms, and you have to type in what platform this is for. So in this case, it would be I can't spell Nintendo. Nintendo Entertainment System, right? So once you put that in there, you're going to click on Default Emulator, Got to check that, and then hit OK. Once you do that, it'll not only make the new emulator, but after that step, it's going to ask you for the metadata for the game itself. So you're just going to keep hitting next on that until you get to the end, and it's going to save the game on here, along with your emulator, which you already just did, right? Um, those steps that I just described is for pretty much every console. Okay, so anytime that you guys are adding new games for a different console, that's the process. Okay, so let me click on GameCube here real quick, and then open this. Tools, import, ROM files. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to add the folder. In my case, all my GameCube games are also in the same drive. I'm going to go to GC, hit next, and boom, it's automatically going to get it for me because I guess it recognized the ISO files that are in there. I'm going to hit next here, manually configure emulator, and choose the emulator that you want. Obviously, if you're adding in games for a new console that's not already listed here, you have to add it by clicking add here. You type in the console name, you browse for the application path of where that .exe file is for that emulator. You're going to go to associated platforms, type the platform that it's for, and then click default emulator here. You're going to check mark it and then hit OK. Okay. Then after that, it's going to ask you to download the metadata for the game itself, and that metadata is all the pictures. Okay, so the cover arts, the back of the cover, the disc images, everything like that. Okay. So now that I explained how to do that in terms of like adding an emulator and the games and stuff, I don't have to go through all these to explain the adding process, right? Because I pretty much just explained it. The only thing I'll have to mention is which emulator is best for each of these consoles. Okay. For GameCube, obviously it's Dolphin, because, yeah, I don't think I have to explain anything else for that. But for Dolphin, there are some configuration settings that you can mess with. So let me see if I can open up Dolphin here, so just so I can show you guys. Dolphin, real quick. There you go. So I have Dolphin, emulator. Okay, so for Dolphin, Dolphin's probably like the best emulator ever. It does everything, okay, and it plays everything so well, and it upscales perfectly. If you have a good graphics card, this thing will run like crazy good, okay. Once you first get Dolphin, there's a link in the description for you guys that you can download it. If you want to configure your controllers, you can either configure your GameCube adapter for Wii U. I'm pretty sure there's videos on YouTube on how to do this. It's actually relatively straightforward. You just have to download these drivers for the controller itself. Then once you do that, you restart your computer, and then once you go to Dolphin, you can plug in your GameCube controller adapter for like Smash and stuff onto two USB ports right next to each other, and then when you click on GameCube adapter for Wii U, you just click on this, and that's it really. All you need is that driver. I'm gonna see if I can find it and then link it in the description just so you guys can have it. But yeah, it's really awesome, and you can use a standard controller as well if you want to use a DS4 controller or something like that. You just hit standard controller, and then from here you can configure it in the config menu. And yeah, to configure everything, you just click on these, and then just click on the corresponding button on your controller, and that's it really. If you want to set it up as a profile, let's say you want to use two different controllers or something. I don't know why you would, but if you want to use a DS4 controller and then switch to an Xbox controller or something, once you do the config for one of those, you just type in the name of that profile, you hit save, and then this drop-down menu, it's going to give you that those configurations, right? Make sure wireless controller is the one chosen here, not any of these other stuff, okay? At least I'm pretty sure. If it's a Xbox controller, it might be X input, but just choose one of these. It should be one of them. You'll reach it eventually, right? But yeah, so that's how you configure the controller. Now, for graphics, what's awesome about Dolphin is that it can upscale to like 4K, I think. It's 5K, I guess, right? I guess with each update, it just gets better. I don't know, but I play all my games at 3 times native, and I used to have a GTX 1660, and it ran these games flawlessly, like 60 FPS, no frame drops, nothing like that. And yeah, I would say that for the best stability and performance and experience, 1080p is the sweet spot. It's really good, and it makes the games look incredible. Like they look way better than they did on an actual console, and it makes me happy to say that, right? So So yeah, 3 times native is the sweet spot. If you want to do anisotropic filtering, I can't say that. If you want to do it 16 times, you can. But I feel like in the times that I've done this, it slows the games down. But I guess it might just depend on your guys' graphics card, whatever it's able to handle and stuff. So I just always leave this at 1 time. I've put it at like other ones before, and I can hardly tell the difference, honestly. So what's important is the internal resolution. That's the kicker right there. Um, and then Direct3D 11 is what I use all the time. OpenGL is for, I don't know, if you have a computer that's not as high tech or advanced or anything like that, feel free to use OpenGL as well. Um, I know for some games, like for example, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, when I use Direct3D 11, it tends to crash. So to mitigate that issue, I tried changing it to OpenGL, and suddenly I didn't have as many performance issues. So if you guys are having compatibility issues with some games, I mean, Dolphin can run pretty much anything, but if you're having issues with it, then always switch to OpenGL. It's just better. Um, but Direct3D 11, you get the better graphical quality, so that's why I use it. I play all my games at 4:3. If you want, you can put it to 4:16:9, but some games it glitches out anytime that you move, which can be kind of annoying. I haven't tested it out myself because, like I said, I'm more of a 4:3 guy. But if you want to use this, you can. I think the stability of this depends on the game, so use at your discretion. And always choose your graphics card for the adapter. Always, just VSync. If you guys are on a 60 hertz refresh rate monitor, I would recommend using this actually. It really helps stability. I use a 2K monitor and I cap my frame rate using the NVIDIA control panel, so I don't have to worry about VSync much. But in a scenario like this, I mean most games, and by that I mean all games, they all run at 60 FPS anyway. That it's never gonna go above that, right? So, um, but yeah, if you want to use it, you can. And that just helps with the screen tearing. If you guys are getting screen tearing in your games, then use VSync because it'll 99% of the time get rid of it. At least I hope so. And then for shader compilation, I just use this one. I have a high-end system, so that's why I use it. But I think this one here is the best in terms of like overall, depending on what PC you have, of course. If you have a low-end, mid-end PC, you can use this one. But I use this one because I have an i9. So, and then I always check this one because I don't know. I've had it with it off, and the games kind of chug a little bit at the beginning, and then like stop, and then they're smooth later on. But if you want to avoid that altogether, you can click on this, and it just helps. Um, but yeah, guys, so those are the general configurations for Dolphin. Highly recommend it. It's the best GameCube emulator ever. It's so good. So in the config menu here, this has helped me sometimes. Dual core in terms of game performance. So I always have this on. If you don't have dual cores, then don't use it, right? Okay, so um, but yeah, I think that's the gist of it, guys. So that's Dolphin. Highly recommended for GameCube. It's the best one. Same goes for Wii. The exact same thing. Um, if you guys want to put like WiiWare games like Mega Man 9, Mega Man 10, you just have to download them. Okay, just find the file for it. And what's good about Dolphin is that once you guys add your games, I think once you first set up Dolphin, it's going to ask you for a directory path on where your games are stored. So that way, anytime that you add something to that folder, it's going to automatically populate into Dolphin, which is great. Okay. In my case, I have the set path to this right here. It has my GameCube games in it. So anytime that you guys move a GameCube game into here, it's going to automatically show up into Dolphin. If you're adding WiiWare games are .wad files, not ISOs. Okay, ISOs are for the GameCube games, and Nkit.isos are for the Wii games. Though I have seen some Wii games with this kind of file, WBFS. It does work. Okay, just be wary of that because, yeah, I don't know why it has like 3 different file types. If I'm being honest, but yeah, so that's how that works. I have my Wii games in a different file. I have them right here. And you see how Super Smash Bros. Brawl is a WBFS file, so it can be different. Okay, so for GameCube games, make sure they're ISOs. If they're the .nkit.iso, I don't think it'll run the games. I've had that from experience. There's a program that you guys can install that allows you to change it from .nkit.iso to just ISO, and it works flawlessly. I've used it for any GameCube games that I downloaded that ended up being Nkit, and I don't know. If you guys want to use that, you can. I'm gonna see if I can find it and then link it in the description. That way you guys have it. But back to the WiiWare games. They're .wad files. So if you download one, you drag it in here, then it should be good to go, right? In this case, though, Mega Man 9 and 10 have DLC. So if you want to use DLC for that, what you'll do is you'll find the DLC file, which is separate from the actual .wad file. I looked for a file with the game already in there alongside the DLC. So it contained both of these files, the folder that I ended up finding. So if you guys can find the game itself with the DLC, then that just makes things easier, right? So what you'll do is you're going to add them both in here into the folder where your Dolphin is. And once you open up Dolphin, you're going to right click on the game itself. Let me see. So you're gonna go to in this scenario. I did Mega Man 10 for the DLC. So right click on that. You're gonna do install to the NAND. Okay. So once you do that, you're gonna go over to you're gonna go to Tools and you're gonna go to Install WAD. And then once you do that, you're gonna click on your on the DLC file. And then once you do that, it's gonna say WAD installed successfully and stuff like that. Then once you boot up your game, it should have all the DLC. Okay. I've only done this with Mega Man 10. I haven't done it for any of the other WiiWare games or anything like that. So if you guys are having issues with that, let me know and I'll see if I can find some solution for it. But that's how I did it with Mega Man 10, and it works flawlessly. So, yeah, honestly, guys, that's it. For Wii games, it's the exact same thing as GameCube. They both use Dolphin. They run beautifully, and yeah, Dolphin's the best. For Sega Genesis games, Kega Fusion is, from what I know, the best Sega Genesis emulator. I haven't used anything else besides that, and honestly, it does things really well. And if I'm being honest, guys, it looks really good. Like, it looks gorgeous. Let me see if I can find it here, because oh, here you go. Open Kega Fusion. Maybe I should be doing that for all these, right? What's awesome is that if you right-click on the game, you can just open up the emulator should you need to configure some stuff before you actually play the game, which is awesome. So this is Kega Fusion. It's a bunch of static. Okay. So I would say the best settings for this in terms of graphical quality is 0 scan lines, because artificial scan lines just don't do it for me. If you want to try some of these, you can, but I always leave mine at 0. Leave this at normal, fixed aspect ratio, so that way when you put it to full screen, it still remains the 4:9 and stuff. I clicked on Brighten, which really makes the colors pop, and it looks incredible. It looks like an HD remake of the game, which is really cool. And then, what was the other one? When you go to full screen resolution, I use 1080. Okay. I tried using 2K, but when I tried to put it in full screen, it just doesn't work. It might work for you guys, I don't know, but when I tried to do it, it didn't, right? So, use it at 1080, and then when you put it at full screen, it's gonna look really good, like really crisp, and it's probably the best you're ever gonna see a Sega Genesis game look. It's just really awesome, right? But yeah, so those are the settings you guys want to use. If you want to set up your controllers, let me see, set config, go to controllers, and then from here you just have to click on which one you want to use. In this case, I'm using DS for Windows, so it recognizes it as an Xbox controller. And then you want to go to define here, and it'll start asking you to configure your buttons at the bottom here. So press the button for up, for down, left, right, all that stuff, right? And once you do that, you're going to hit apply here, hit OK, and then your controller should be set. Okay. Kega Fusion is awesome. It's really incredible, honestly, and yeah, you guys should definitely try it out. So that's for Sega Genesis. For Sony PlayStation, normally most people use EPSXE, I think that's what it's called, for PlayStation games. If I'm being honest, guys, that emulator's not really optimized, if I'm being honest. I have an i9 computer that has an RTX graphics card, and for some reason it doesn't work. Like, I don't know if it's my computer, I don't know if it's the emulator, But every time I try to open up a game, the sound quality is awful. Like I hear crackling, and it's every like 4 or 5 seconds. And if you guys know me, I love video game music a lot. So anytime I try to emulate something and the audio's being really weird, it completely throws me off and it makes me not want to play the game, right? So what I highly recommend is Duckstation. Duckstation is another PlayStation emulator, and it's so good. Okay, it allows you to upscale the resolution if you want. The sound, you don't have to worry about downloading any sound drivers for it or messing with the sound, the audio, or whatever. It just plays the games with clear sound, beautiful sound. Okay, and it's really fast. It boots up in like 2 seconds, like not even like half a second, if I'm being honest. And it's great. So let me see if I can open it up here. Yeah, open Duckstation. Okay, so this is what it looks like. There's this tutorial video on YouTube that I'm gonna link to you guys. It's by UrCasualGamer. Uh, I'm 90% sure at least half of you know who that guy is. He does video game tutorials on emulators. He's done one on pretty much any emulator you can think of. But yeah, if anything, his tutorials are better than mine that I'm trying to describe here. But I'm just gonna trying to show you guys how to get the best emulator for each individual console, right? So from here, one thing to note, when you guys are adding Duckstation to Launchbox, make sure that it's the right version of Duckstation in the Duckstation folder. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick so I can show you guys. I have it saved to my desktop, PS1. So here, when you guys extract a Duckstation folder, it's gonna have all this, okay? When you guys are choosing what file path for the emulator to go with, click on this .exe, the one that says SDL. Don't do the Qt one because it's not going to work. Okay. This is the only one that works, and it's the only one that'll pull it up. Okay. So make sure you guys use this one when you're putting in Duckstation in Launchbox. Okay. So from here you can go to, let me see, the resolution scale. So from here you can put it native resolution, which I'm pretty sure is this one. This might not actually be the native resolution. I could be wrong, but it looks like it. I always put it at 2 times because anything closer to 1080 looks really good. Even though I'm more of a native resolution guy, I tend to use this one more often. But for games like Mega Man X4, X5, it looks incredible with 1024 pixels, and it's really good. All this is kind of overkill, if I'm being honest with you guys. Some people like to use it at 4K, 2K, all that other stuff. To me, it makes the games look more artificial. I don't know. If you want to try these, you can, but from resolution scale, this is where you change them, right? For your controllers, it'll be in ports here. What's good about Duckstation is I'm 90% sure it automatically detects what controller you have. If you go to ports here, you can click this drop down and you can select which one you want. Actually, now I think about it, in order to configure your controller, you have to click on the Qt one. Remind me later. And from here, you can go to, let me see, controller settings. Here we go. And then from here, you can bind all your buttons for your controller. Okay. And that's it, really. Like, Duckstation is very straightforward. The only thing you have to worry about is making sure that you click on SDL when you're adding the emulator to Launchbox, and then it should work perfectly from there. So, like I said, strongly recommend Duckstation. It's awesome. I use it for everything, and it's really good. So, hey guys, this is Waldy post recording. I forgot to describe how exactly I had to add PlayStation 1 games that are multi-disc. The great examples are Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 7, and Final Fantasy 8 at the top here. So, anytime that you guys are adding multiple discs, what I like to do is make sure that wherever you save your ROMs for PS1, like for example, I have one in this folder, PS1 ROMs. Obviously, to add any PS1 game at all, when you're adding it in Launchbox, make sure that you select, like in my example here, I put them all in one folder, all the bin and queue files. You need both a bin and queue file in the folder itself, okay? So if I only had one bin file here and no queue file for Crash Warped, I couldn't play the game, right? So that's for any PlayStation game. You need the bin file and the queue file in the same general folder, right? But for the Final Fantasy games case, what I did was I put them all in each individual folder, and I moved all the discs all the bin and queue files for each disk in just one folder. And what I did was, once I went to the menu here, Tools, Import, ROM files, I'll hit Next. I'll click on Add Folder, and then I'll find that folder of that game instead, right? So in this case, I'll click like Final Fantasy VII or something. Then when I hit Next here, I'll select PlayStation again, manually configure emulator, Duckstation, use the files in their current location, keep hitting Next, and then once you get to the end, it should list all the games by disk, okay, and it should only show the queue files for those disks. In my case, it won't show it because I already have them added, but how it should look is it'll say the title of the game, which will be on the left, and on the right it'll say disk 1, 2, 3, 4 listed in that order vertically. So if it shows that and the extension is the queue files for those, then that's it. You just hit finish here, and it'll load up the game. It'll save it here, and it'll only show up as one single image. Okay, so it won't show each disk as an individual like game or anything like that. It'll just save them exactly like this. And I think the ideal way to set the Duckstation emulator up is you go to Tools here, you go to what was it? Manage, go to Emulators, and wherever your Duckstation is, right? You click on Edit, and when you go to Associated Platforms, make sure you have this Use M3U playlist for multiple disks checked. If you're using the multiple disks, right? So I would just have this checked all the time, so that way Duckstation will always recognize that there's multiple disks and stuff like that. I think once you right click on this, it should say right here, play version, right? So I think this only shows up if you have that playlist thing checked. I could be super wrong about that, but just make sure that's checked, and then from there you can just select play version. You can select which disk you want. Okay. But that was it, guys. That's how you add multiple disks, and let's get on with the rest of the video. PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 is a whole mess of emulation, if let me tell you. Emulating PS2 games is not by any means perfect. Every individual game requires some form of adjusting the settings if you guys want to play at like 1080p and up and stuff. But if you guys want to play at native resolutions, then you guys really shouldn't have a problem with this. For me though, I like playing the games at 1080p. The only problem is anytime that you upscale from the normal resolution, it makes the shadow go away from pretty much everything in the game. So you won't see the shadow of your character when you're trying to platform and stuff like that, and it can make things a little more difficult. But that's the cost of, upscaling your resolution, right? So, but to set this up, let me just open RPCSX2 right here. Not RPCX2, PCSX2. That's what it's called. So first things first, you're gonna go to controllers here, go to plugin settings, and once you go to pad 1 here, don't click quick setup, because I've seen from experience that it doesn't configure every button. Do each of these manually. So just click on them and then click the corresponding button on your controller, and it should be fine. Okay, so once you guys have that set up, you hit OK. On the general pad here, you see how it says direct input and X input. If you guys are using an Xbox controller, then you don't have to worry about what I'm about to explain. But if you guys are using DS for Windows, obviously that makes it so that the PS4 controller is recognized as a 360 controller in the system. So what happens is, if you have both X input and direct input checked, what will happen is in some games, when you try to press certain buttons, the buttons either won't work or it's going to be like a continuous holding of that button. So like for example, let me think, in Naruto Ultimate Ninja 3, when you're in the overworld and Ultimate Ninja mode and you can run around and free roam and stuff like that, you'll notice that if you have both of these checked, the camera won't stop spinning. Okay, and the reason for that is because it thinks that it's trying to get an input from a PlayStation controller and an Xbox controller at the same time. So it causes one of the buttons to just continuously be in a loop. So to get rid of that, you just uncheck direct input and just only leave this, and that's it. That's how you fix that. The same thing goes for Mega Man X8. If you guys are playing that game, what will happen is if you have both of these checked, let me see, hold on. For Mega Man X8, if you guys have that checked, or unchecked, sorry, then it'll make it so that you're able to click on all the buttons. Okay, because I had an experience where I had both of them checked, and I tried like getting out of the options menu, and I couldn't hit circle. It just didn't input. It didn't register the input, right? So, if you guys are running into awkward issues with your controllers like that, try unchecking this and see if it'll work. Nine times out of 10 it will, but this is how you fix that issue. Okay. Um, Now to the nitty gritty of it, the video input. So you go to config, video, plugin settings. And then from here, this is where you mess with the graphics, okay? For me, I always use DirectDuty 11 hardware. Hardware is the one that you want to use all the time. If your guys' hardware isn't capable of handling things like this, then go to software. Just know that going to software will reduce the image quality, of course. I use DirectDuty 11. And honestly, that's it, right? For your adapter, hit default hardware device. You can choose your graphics card if you want, but I just leave it on this. I've never had an issue with that. Leave interlacing at default always. Bilinear, so this is what will change depending on what game you're playing. In the case of, I guess, Ultimate Ninja 3 for another example, this game is all kinds of messed up. Trying to upscale it. If you're trying to upscale this game, what will happen is if you put bilinear forced, it will cause the mouths and the eyes of the characters in the main menu to have like boxes around them, and it looks kind of awkward. Okay, so if you want to fix that, you can put like bilinear PS2, and it'll just get rid of that issue. One downside of upscaling though is that some FMVs in some games will have lines going, like vertical lines across them, and there's no way to fix that. From what I know, I've done 5 million configurations with this, and none of them work to get rid of those lines. So if you want to upscale, you're just going to have to deal with the FMVs having vertical lines. Thankfully, most of the time, the FMVs are just openings for the games themselves and not like cutscenes in the game or anything. So that's why I don't mind it much, especially in Ultimate Ninja 3's case. But yeah, so if you guys want to upscale, those are the drawbacks of it, right? But you always want to leave this unforced. If you're getting some like weird lines around stuff, like squares or stuff like that, you can put bilinear force excluding sprite, and sometimes it'll fix that issue. If not, then that's just another drawback of upscaling, right? So to upscale, you just click on this, and you can go up to 5K, but that's overkill, if I'm being honest. Even 4K is overkill for me. Playing games at 1080p is gorgeous on this emulator, and it looks so good. It looks like a remastered version of the game, and honestly, you shouldn't need anything higher than this, if I'm being honest. Obviously, put this resolution according to how good your graphics card is. If you're starting to get a lot of slowdown with some games, then just start lowering it until you get a sweet spot, and just use that, honestly. Anisotropic filtering, my favorite words. I leave this at 16 times, and it does make a huge difference on this emulator from what I've seen. It makes everything super smooth. All the models are super smooth, and honestly, it's just like the best thing. Okay, so always use 16 times by that one. The MIP mapping, this depends on the game. Most games use automatic. The only game I've seen that needs basic is The Legend of Spyro: The Eternal Night. I needed that one for that one because if not, it'll cause some graphical glitches at the bottom. So if you're seeing graphical glitches in your games, try messing with some of these. Try using it on basic. Don't use full. I don't think I've ever seen that being used. Basic should work just fine. And then see if it'll fix that issue. But the recommended is the automatic because that's just how it goes. The hack level, I've seen people use it on aggressive or full direct 3D or whatever. Honestly, just don't mess with this. To me, I've never seen a noticeable difference. So you guys shouldn't have to worry about that. Date accuracy, leave it at fast. And blending accuracy, this one depends on the game as well. So in the case of Mega Man X8, back to go to that game, this has to be on high debug. And the reason why is because if it was on any of these other ones, then it causes some models on some enemies to be super bright. And obviously that's super glaring and it's not okay, right? So for that, for example, I have to do high debug. Honestly, you can do high debug for a lot of games, but if you're seeing some like graphical issues, then just start lowering it and put it to basic again. But if you're starting to see that things are a little too bright in your games, then try to put the debug up to high and see if that fixes the issue. Um, Enabling HW hacks. From what I've seen, guys, honestly, you don't really need this unless it's for a game where, um, let me think. For a game like Godzilla Save the Earth, for example, anytime I go into the game, some of the alignments for things are like a little off, and it can look kind of strange. So to fix that, I can put the texture offset to 500 each here. So I can just put like 500 by 500, and it makes everything aligned again, right? So if you're seeing misalignments and things, click on Align Sprite and then put 500 by 500 on this and see if that helps. This helps for Save the Earth and for Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Because if you don't have this on for this game especially, it will all the models will have like outlines on them, and it looks kind of strange. But if you put this, it'll help mitigate that, and it'll look a lot better. Um, but that's it. Only use this enable HW hacks if you're seeing misalignments in your game. Um, and I think that's about it. Sorry if that was a lot of information. Obviously, you guys can skip this part of the video if you aren't looking for PlayStation 2 specifically. But I figured I'd mention all that because I know people have a lot of issues with trying to emulate PS2 on their PCs. And yeah, to run a game, you just let me see here. You can go to C DVD, go to ISO selector, and then you hit browse. From here, you just go to the folder where you have everything saved in. You click on it, you hit open, and then once you open it, you go to CD ISO selector, and then it should be highlighted here in this dot on what game you have currently selected. For this, you have to select which game you want to boot up before you hit run, and yeah, so that's how that works. So if I wanted to play Mega Man XA, I have to click on it first, and then I'll go up here to System, boot ISO fast, and it'll start the game for me. Okay. To put this game in full screen or this emulator, you first have to click on the maximize menu and then double click on it. Okay. I know that's super strange because most emulators you just hit Alt Enter and it'll open it up for you, but for that one in particular, it's kind of weird. You have to maximize it first, double click on it, and then from there it'll put it in full screen. To get out of full screen, you just double click on it again, and then you can what's the opposite of maximize on this? Right? Minimize? But minimize is when you put it down here. So what do you call when you make it smaller menu? I don't know. Whatever the box is after it's already maximized, you click on that, and then you can exit out of it and stuff, right? So that's PCSX2. You might be wondering, but Waldy, if I need to put a different config for depending on the game, won't I have to change it in the config every single time I want to boot up a game? No, you don't, because there's a plugin that you can download for Launchbox where you can manually configure the config for each individual game yourself, and you never have to open it again, right? So, well, the first thing I'll do here is I have to open up Launchbox as an administrator, because if I don't, then it won't open it. It won't allow me to configure each one individually. I don't know why it's like that. I save Launchbox in my documents here. Um, but what you'll want to do is you're going to download this plugin. It's going to be in the description, obviously. It's called PCSX2 Configurator Next. Now, you're going to put this in your plugins folder. When you install Launchbox, wherever you install it in, go to the Launchbox folder, go to plugins, and this is where you're going to throw in the folder for that plugin. And when you click on the folder, this is what it'll look like, okay? So once you put that into plugins, you're going to right click on Launchbox and you're going to run as administrator. You hit yes. And you have to run it as administrator. If you don't, it's going to give you an error message saying that the path that you put Launchbox in doesn't give you the right to change anything, whatever, right? So I had the biggest issue with that, and the solution was exactly that. You have to run it as administrator, otherwise you can't configure these settings. But the good thing about that is that once you configure the settings for each individual game, you don't have to configure them ever again, and you can just leave it like that, right? So let me think of a scenario here. So Mega Man X8 is the one that I think required the most fiddling around with. So once you guys put that in your plugins, it's going to show up here when you right click on the game. It's going to say PCSX2 Configurator. Now, I had a situation where it didn't show up here, and I think the reason why is because if you guys try to move your Launchbox folder to a different hard drive that wasn't what it was originally installed in, it's gonna think that all your plugins just don't exist. Okay, I mean that's the best way I can describe it because I don't know why it does that. I tried moving Launchbox folder into my into one of my hard drives, and when I tried to open it back up again to see if this showed up, it didn't. So make sure it's on your C drive, it's in your documents folder, your desktop. Either one of those two will work, and it should show up here. So if you guys are having issues with that showing up, just move it out of your hard drive, and it has to be on your desktop. I know that kind of sucks because putting more stuff on your C drive just sucks in general, but that's the only way around that. So you're gonna right click on the game, you're gonna click on PCSX2 Configurator, and then from here, at first it's gonna say create. So once you click on that, it'll create a config file for it. And then once it creates that config file, you're going to click on Configure with PCSX2. You're going to click on that, and it'll open PCSX2 with the game already selected in the ISO, you see. And then once you go to Config here, you go to Video, Plugin Settings, and then from here you can put in all the settings that you want for that particular game. Once you do that, you'll hit OK. And then exit out of PCSX2, and there you go, you're done. That's it. So if you guys do that for each individual game, you'll never have to configure it again, ever, right? So one thing though, once you guys create a new config for that, you guys won't have your save files anymore. So I'm just giving you that heads up now, okay, before you start your game, and then go halfway through it and then decide to do this. I don't know why it does that. I think it's because the config file and the save file are like kind of linked. Or something, or it just decides to open up the ISO file using a different folder. I don't know how that works exactly, but all I know is after you make a new config file for that, it's gonna not have your save file at all. So you're gonna have to make a new one and then use that save file instead. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's how you do PlayStation 2 games. I know that was a very long, complicated thing. But unfortunately, that's how emulation goes, right? So if you guys have questions on different settings for PCSX2 or anything like that, just leave it in the comments, and I'll try to help out as best I can. Next is PlayStation 3. This is the hardest one, okay? I know I said PlayStation 2 was hard, but this is it, okay? I'm going to try my best to explain this in the best way I can. But basically, guys, right now, there's only RPCS3 as the definitive emulator to emulate PlayStation 3 games, and it's still in its development stage. There are some games that are not fully playable, some games have graphical glitches, some games need patches in order to fully work and complete the game from start to finish, and yeah, it's all based on game. But the good thing about RPCS3 is that you can manually configure the configuration for each game within the emulator itself, and you guys don't have to do that crazy plugin thing that I did for PCSX2, where you have to do it for each individual game inside the emulator, right? So, but yeah, so let me see. Let me open it up from my desktop because I have it here. PCS3. So once you guys download RPCS3, this is what it'll look like. I'm not going to go in depth on how to get RPCS3 set up. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube for that. So I'm just going to explain to you guys the settings for it, okay? That way you guys can have the best graphical quality for each of your games, right? In order to put games in here, okay? That's the one thing I'm going to explain because some tutorial videos don't do it exactly well. To dump games onto RPCS3, you can do one of two methods. You can either dump the game in using a CD drive. If your computer has a CD drive at all, you can put in your PS3 game in there, and your computer is going to recognize it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to download this thing called Disk Dumper. I'm going to leave a link for that in the description, and it's going to look like this. Basically, it recognizes your PS3 game that's inside the CD drive, and from here you can hit like start here, and basically what it'll do is it'll dump the game file onto your computer, and you can use it in RPCS3, and it's awesome. It's so good. It's the most authentic way I've ever seen of getting a PS3 game on your PC, and it works great. I've never had an issue with this, so I strongly recommend you guys do that if you have your own PS3 games that you want to dump on here. Let me see. So first thing you'll do is you go to this config here. Make sure that your output folder is wait, where do I have this? Oh yes, so your output folder is wherever you want it to save all your dumped games, right? For me, um, I chose one of my hard drives because I don't have space on my C drive for big games that are 20 gigabytes or more for this stuff. So make sure it's in a spot where it has plenty of memory and it'll allow RPCS3 to launch the game from, right? So um, IRD cache folder. I think you guys have to make this manually yourself. Make sure you make a folder called IRD, and then from there you just click on Browse, and you click on that folder, and then that's where all the cache will go. You just need a folder for it to uh, do its thing, basically. So just make an IRD file. For me, I just did it wherever I saved all my PS3 games in. I have my PS3 file here. This file is where it dumps all the games to. So I put my IRD file in that same hard drive, and then hit OK, and then that's it. You should be good, right? Um, if you're not good and you're running into issues, there's a tutorial video on this on YouTube that you guys can also do and look for, right? But once you put the game in, you just hit the big button here, and it'll start decompiling all the files for you. And once it's finished, you're going to go to that file where you dumped all your games in. In my case, it's in the my drive here, and it's going to look like this. It's going to look like one of these folders. So once it finishes, it's going to be these. Um, yeah, so the only thing you have to do really, instead of hitting File, Add Game, or Install Game, or anything like that, honestly, you can just click and drag the folder of your game into RPCS3, and it'll automatically list it here. And that's it. That's how you add the game in there. It's super simple. If you guys download an ISO from the internet, make sure it's an ISO that has a PS3 game folder in it. And just make sure that it's an ISO file in general. If it's anything other than ISO, then it's probably not a genuine PS3 game copy that you can use in RPCS3. Okay. In my example, I downloaded BlazBlue here because I couldn't find my game. I own it, but I couldn't find it for some reason. And the ISO file that I downloaded wasn't named this. It was named something else. It was named BlazBlue Calamity Trigger, US, Spain, French, whatever. It had a bunch of other stuff. When you click on that folder, you double click it, right? Well, after you extract it using WinRAR or 7-zip or whatever you guys use to extract your stuff, make sure that when you double click on it, it says PS3 underscore game. If it says that, click on that, go to USRDIR, and make sure it has an eBoot file. If it does, then you have a genuine copy of the game that you can use in RPCS3. So yeah. So that's how you know the authenticity of it. Now, how to add it on here. The problem is if you try to just add the folder with that name that I mentioned earlier, where it shows all the regions and stuff, and you just try to drag it, it'll not recognize the game and it won't boot it. What you have to do is you have to put the name of the game here exactly as it says, without any colons, dashes, or anything like that. And then you have to put in brackets the serial number of that game. If you guys don't know what the serial number of the game is, it's either on the box of the game itself, or it can be in online. So you just have to search for it. You search for, like in my case, I can put BlazBlue Calamity Trigger serial number, and on the internet it's going to tell me, right? So once you get it, you're going to put it in brackets after the name itself. It's going to look like this, and then make sure that's what the name of the folder is. Otherwise, it won't boot up. Okay, and then that's it. That's how you add the games in there. That's how it boots up. As for configurations, just to list a few here. If you guys want to play the Uncharted games, these have God knows how many configurations for them. So I know you guys are probably want to be playing these games because they're probably the most popular, right? So I'm just going to go through these real quick just to show you what configurations I have. This is what I have for Uncharted 2. Make sure it's this one because it'll crash if you don't. Disable TSS instructions if you have a i9. For your GPU, leave it at 1080. For some reason, anything above that just makes it crash more. Leave VSync on, asynchronous texture shading. Frame limit 60, otherwise the cutscenes will run super fast. Make sure it doesn't go above 60. In advanced, make sure you click on the libvdec.sprx firmware, and then click on accurate RSX This one's by default, I think. Read def buffers, read color buffers. You need both of these on. I tried it with them off, and the game just crashed immediately. I don't know how. And then driver wake up delay to 1,000. This is only for Uncharted 2, guys, that I'm explaining all this, okay? Because it can be really bad, really crazy if the wake up delay is not 1,000. I've tried playing the game at 200, 400, and I wouldn't get past like maybe 20 minutes without the game crashing. But putting it to 1,000 reduces the amount of freezes that the game has, and yeah. So, and then I think that's it. That's most of them. I put this one just because, I don't know, I felt like it would help. I don't think this would really change much. But, yeah. So if you guys want to look through all these settings, you can. I'm just going to scroll through them real quick just to make sure you guys can see it. And, yeah, that's it. For Uncharted 3, it's a similar process, except it's kind of different. For this one, this can use LLVM. I haven't had it crash on me once using this setup. Still disable TSX instructions. Enable SPU loop detection, that's default. Red color buffers helps with some areas where it can be blurry or super bright. That'll fix all those issues. Frame limit to 60, just like before. 1080p, I don't think 2K would help in this scenario. Accurate RSX reservation access. I didn't do the color buffers here because I played the game just fine without them. So, but if the game's still giving you issues, feel free to try them, right? Wake up delay at 400, and I haven't had the game freeze on me once. Okay, and it works pretty well. Use the same libvdec codec or firmware, right? And it should work just fine. And that's it. For Drake's Fortune, this one works really well. I didn't have to configure like too much on this. It works with TSX instructions. I've played like probably 50 minutes of the game or something. I think it'll tell me here, right? Yeah, almost 50 minutes of the game with no crashes, and it works just fine. Red color buffers helps with the lighting in some areas. Make sure flame limits to 60, otherwise the cutscenes will speed up. Let me see. I didn't use accurate RSX for this one because I have TSX enabled already here. Wake up delay is 200. I don't know if having any of the other ones or having this higher up would work or make it better. You can try it if you want, but this one works for me. I don't use the libvdec thing. I don't know if it would improve performance or not. I don't use it because the game's stable without it, and I'm perfectly fine with that, right? So, and that's it for that one. That's it for Uncharted. The big kicker is Sonic Unleashed. I have a whole tutorial video on how to make Sonic Unleashed work. Newsflash, it's not going to work on the current build of RPCS3. It works, but the frame rate is not as good as the previous build, which is build 12, which will be mentioned in the video that I'll put in the description for you guys to check if you want to play Sonic Unleashed from start to finish. I just finished doing that today for the second time on this emulator with only one crash, and yeah, and it plays awesome, right? And I think that's really the gist of it. These are the ones that are the most intensive and that I've seen a lot of people play with issues. So everything else should be pretty much the default. And if you guys want more configurations for things, you can always go to the RPCS3. Let me see here, RPCS3 wiki, and from there you can basically go to any game you want, and it'll show you exactly what instructions or what configurations you can put for the specific game, right? Yeah, that's it. These games need patches, by the way. So if you right-click on the game, you go to Manage Game Patches, and then from here, you on the bottom left, you click on Download Latest Patches, and then you click on this drop-down. It'll give you all the patches for the game. I'm going to tell you guys right now, just click them all, okay? I mean, besides maybe like the debug menu, I don't know if you guys would use that or not, but yeah, click on all of them, especially for Uncharted 2. Without these, the game will crash a lot, it'll freeze a lot, and the performance is just overall really bad. Same goes for Sonic Unleashed, same goes for Uncharted 3, same goes for Uncharted Drake's Fortune. If there's patches for them, use them, honestly. It just makes the games more stable, and it's really the best way to play them, if I'm being honest. So, hey guys, this is also post-recording Waldy again, back again. I forgot to explain how to update your RPCS3 games to the current version, which is kind of critical because the most up-to-date version for like 90% of the time are the most stable. Okay, so I'll have a link in the description for what this program is, and it's called PS3-GUDT. Once you get that installed, I'll have a link in the description for you guys. Once you click on that, um, basically what this does is it searches the web for all the updates for the games that you have listed. And it's the coolest thing in the world. Okay, so once you get it, you just click on the exe file, you click on this button, and what you'll have to do is you'll have to set a directory path for where you want these, for where you want it to save all the updates in. In my case, I have it set to, where did I set it? I think I made a separate folder for it. So just make a folder for it, set it as a directory path, and then once you get the updates, it'll go to that folder, right? So once you do that, though, you'll just click on this right here, and what you have to do is you have to go to where your folder is for RPCS3, and then scroll all the way down, and you have to look for the games.yml file. Okay, so once you click on that, you click open, and boom, it'll list. It'll auto update all the games that you have listed in that folder, which should be all these, right? So after you do that, you click on get/refresh serial metadata, and it'll start retrieving all the update files for those games, basically. And it's the coolest thing ever because trying to find update files for these games is darn near impossible these days on the internet. Like for example, Sonic Unleashed, I tried looking for the update file for that, and it was just I couldn't find it. I don't know what it is, and trying to find it for any other game is also almost impossible to do. So just use this, and it'll find all of them, right? And then once it's finished here, it should be finished in just a couple seconds. Just give it a second. There you go. You click on download updates, and basically what it'll do is it'll do establishing connection with PSN update server. If you get to this page and it stays stuck on this screen, it's probably because you tried to manually like adjust the games that it populated or something. Honestly, I would just leave all of them in there and then just hit download. If it's a lot of games that you have, then I mean, I guess you can try to fix it and whatever. But if it stays stuck on that screen, I've had it in the past where I tried to manually adjust that font on the bottom, and it would just stay stuck there. So I wouldn't touch it. Just download the game files, and then once they're finished, I'm gonna hit cancel here because I already have all of them. Okay. Once they finish downloading, it's going to go in this update downloads folder, and this is it, honestly. So all you have to do is you have to drag it into RPCS3, and it's going to ask if you want to install the package files. Okay, so just hit yes on that, and that's it. Honestly, it takes 2 seconds, and you'll know that it worked if it no longer says that you need to the game needs a higher version or anything, right? So, but that's it. That's how you guys do it. If you guys have questions on how to install package files for version updates or anything like that, just let me know in the comments. But besides that, let's continue on with the show. And that's it, guys. That's it for RPCS3. Like I said, there's a lot of compatibility issues for a lot of games. Just try the games you want, and to add the games to Launchbox specifically, when you go to Tools, Import, go to ROM Files, hit Next here, and then click on Add Files. You're going to have to add them individually, okay? Because the file that you need is the eboot.bin file that I mentioned earlier that you need in the folder for it to be authentic, okay? So in my case, I have them all set to this drive here, and once I click on the file, I have to go to ps3_game usr directory, and then this eboot.bin file is what you're looking for. Okay. When you click on open here, it'll show you the path where the game is. You hit next. Sony PlayStation 3, right? You hit next. Choose an emulator. I already added RPCS3 on here. You hit next. Use the files in their current location. Would you like to download metadata for your game? So this is the metadata thing I was talking about earlier, guys. This is what you'll find. Whatever downloads all the pictures, all the artwork, all that stuff. So you just keep hitting next on this, next, until you get to the screen where it tells you what you want to name the game. Okay. Let me see here if it'll let me. It won't let me. Right. So basically what it'll show here is on the left it'll say eboot under the title. You have to click on that and then rename the game to whatever game you're trying to upload. Okay. So In my case, if I was to add an Uncharted here, I would click on it and I would rename it to Uncharted colon space Drake's Fortune, right, or something. Once you click finish, it'll add it on here. So make sure it's that eboot file in the US directory folder. Okay, and that's it. That's how you add the game to Launchbox. I know that was really complicated because, like I said, PlayStation emulators are just the craziest things to do, and they're really hard, and it's a lot of information. But hopefully that helps you guys get the games added on here. Um, Super Nintendo. This one's super easy. Most people like to use SNES 9X as their emulator of choice. I don't, and it's for the same reason that I don't use EPSXE for the emulator for PlayStation, and it's because of the audio issues. It's so bad. There's a lot of crackling. The sound mixing is just awful. I tried arranging the settings around, nothing worked, and it was just really annoying. And the graphical quality just wasn't that good either. Even if I tried upscaling and stuff like that, it wasn't working for me. So I downloaded this emulator called BSNES, B as in boy. Okay, so I'll have a link in the description for that emulator. And honestly, guys, it's the best. I'm telling you, it's probably my favorite emulator ever. It makes these games look so good, and it's gonna look like this. It's one of those work in progress emulators that it doesn't have an official release, like SNES 9X or stuff like that. But if I'm being super honest, it's the best one. It's so good. It makes these games look gorgeous, beautiful, really good. And honestly, I would just recommend you guys try it because it's incredible. Um, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't even mess with the quality of the video settings or anything like that. I would just boot up the game and just start playing because not only is it not going to have any crazy audio crackling issues and the sound's going to be perfect, um, it's going to look really good. Like, just take my word for it, guys. Just download BSNES and use that as your default Super Nintendo emulator because it works wonders and it's just so good, man. Like, I was shocked when I downloaded this for the first time, and it was miles better than SNES 9X, which is crazy because that's what everybody else uses. And I'm like, no, because the music, it messes with the music and the audio quality. It's so bad. But yeah, so I think to configure the controller, you go to input here, and then from here you can just click on each of these, and then you can click assign here, and then you can configure it how you want it. Okay. Um, and that's it, guys. That's how you use BSNES. That was a much shorter tutorial than the PS3 one that I just did. Um, but yeah, guys, use BSNES. It's so good. It's awesome. Um, for DS, I would try and use Desmume, but the problem with Desmume is, in terms of upscaling stuff, it's not the best. As a matter of fact, it doesn't really upscale much at all. At least the official version of it. There's another one called Desmume HD, and uh, it's honestly kind of whack. Like, the full screen mode on it doesn't really work all that well, and it's just overall like it's one of those in progress projects. It's not super official, and yeah, I mean, it makes the games look good, yeah, but it's not. The full screen is kind of wacky, it's kind of messed up, and it has this command prompt window open in the background at all times that you can't get rid of, which would probably mess things up, so I'd just rather not. So, I would strongly recommend instead Melon DS. It's so good. It's awesome. And I'm going to show you guys how that looks here in a second. So let me open that up here. Open Melon DS. And here it is. So I think the only thing you guys have to worry about here is go to, I'm trying to remember where it was. Right here. Yeah, so go to video settings. Make sure it's OpenGL. And then from here you can choose your resolution. I have it at 4 times because... Why do I have it at 4 times? I don't know. 4 times is the sweet spot for me because it's... well, I wouldn't say it's the closest to 1080p or anything, but I would say this is like the perfect thing. If you try to go above this, it'll look more artificial and like candy flavored. Like, I don't know how else to describe that, but if you guys want to try that, you can. But the sweet spot for me is 4 times native, and it makes everything look not as pixelated, especially as the 3D models on things. For games like Sonic Rush, it looks awesome. It looks really good. And for games like Pokemon Black and White, Pokemon Black and White has never looked so good ever on compared to this. Well, when playing it on this emulator, it just looks incredible. So, yeah, use the setting for it, And then to configure the controllers, you just go to input and hotkeys, and then you can configure your thing right here. The joystick, just choose your controller at the bottom. You can configure your controller from here, right? And that's it. You just hit File, Open ROM, and then open your ROM, basically. If you want full screen, you're going to have to go to Config, Input and Hotkeys, General Hotkeys, and then toggle full screen, and then just set it to whatever hotkey you want. I put Alt Return. You can put it to F11 if you want. Doesn't really matter. So after you do that, you hit OK. Make sure it's Melon DS version 0.9.1. I don't think anything older than that has that configuration to put a hotkey to the full screen. Okay, so make sure you get that one, and that's how you hit full screen. You can put it to whatever you want. And that's it. That's it for Melon DS. It's the best one. Another thing about that Desmume HD thing is that the games tend to slow down when the resolution's high up. And you know me, if the game slows down at all, that slows down the music too. And that's kind of annoying, right? So I like hearing my video game music in my video games, right? So Melon DS doesn't do that no matter how far up you upscale it, at least from what I've done, and it plays it near flawless. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's how you do it for DS games. Game Boy Advance is self-explanatory. It's VBA, obviously. Some people use VBA M, which I've tried using, and it doesn't work for me. I don't know why. I guess my computer is weird. I don't know. But for me, Visual Boy Advance is the way to go. It's the best one, right? Make sure frame skip. First thing you do when you get Visual Boy Advance, go to frame skip, hit 0, please. If you go to any of these, then what will happen is when you try to play something like as smooth and 60 FPS as Metroid Zero Mission, you're gonna see that her movements are like kind of like every other frame, and it's gonna look really choppy and really bad. So first thing you do, go to frame skip 0. Okay. And then for the video, some people like to play their Game Boy Advance games on full screen. I don't, because it gets super pixelated and it looks awful, right? So I like to play my games at 4 times the window size, and this is the biggest it gets. I don't really mind that because, I mean, we're already playing Game Boy Advance games on a small screen as it is anyway, so I don't really see anything bad about using that, I guess, right? So that's what I do. Make sure VSync's on as well. I heard that helps. And then for render method, I've always used OpenGL. Direct 3D makes the pixels like more close to each other, looks everything look have a silkier, smoother look. I think it looks terrible. I mean, but that's just me. Yeah, it can be up to your guys' preference, honestly. But if you want like the best graphical settings to make it look as HD as possible without all those pixels, there's plenty of videos on YouTube for that. I personally don't do it because it just makes it look ugly in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, in any case, like I said, frame skip to 0. That's the most important part. And to configure your controls, go to joypad configure, go to 1 here, and then from here, this is where you will update everything basically. If you're using DS for Windows, it's kind of a hassle trying to get all this configured. Like for example, as soon as I entered into it, it automatically configured stuff for me, so now I have to readjust this. So when I click on up here, you see how it jumps down 2 of them. Don't do that. Just click back up on it here, and then just go all the way down, right? I'll do that later, so not to keep you guys up. But honestly, that's it. Then from there, you hit open, and you click on the ROM, and it should open up. For Pokemon Emerald, Ruby, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Sapphire, all the Pokemon games, make sure you go to Options, go to Emulator, go to Save Type, and make sure this is on Flash 128K. Okay, if you don't, you might get a white screen when playing Pokemon Emerald or Ruby, Sapphire, all the Pokemon games. But only do that if you're getting that white screen, okay? And make sure that the copy of the ROM that you guys have is the most up-to-date version, because from what I can tell, I think Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, Fire Red, Leaf Green, they all have a second revision of the ROM. So if you guys have like the first revision or just like a dash in the middle of the game's ROM name, that's not going to work. It has to have a comma, and it has to be the most recent revision. That was my mistake because I put it on this too, and it still didn't fix the issue. But what I did was I re-downloaded the ROM for a different website, and it turned out that the ROM I currently had was an out-of-date version, right? So make sure you have the most up-to-date revisions of those ROMs, and you shouldn't have that widescreen issue like I did. So that's it, guys. That's for that one. And last but certainly not least is PlayStation Portable. Okay, PSP games are some of my favorite games ever. I grew up with the PSP, and it's just so good seeing them in HD on a PC, and they run so well. Like the PPSSPP, okay, is the name of the emulator that you guys will be using for this, and it works wonders. Okay, so let me let's see here. Go to Open PC. Oops, I had it set to open at full screen all the time, so I apologize. So I'm going to go to settings here. So these are all the settings I have. I'm not going to go in depth on most of these because it's kind of hard to describe. But the main ones you want to focus on are rendering resolution, which is right here. You can change it to ×2, ×3, ×4. You can go up if you want. ×3 is the sweet spot for me. I'd never go above that. And then what else? The anisotropic filtering, my favorite. Make sure this is off. And the reason I say that is because if you guys try to play Final Fantasy IV, the complete collection, it's gonna make the pixel graphics like close together, and it's gonna make it look very muddy and very ugly. If I'm being honest. And like I said, I'm more of a pixel art guy. I don't like the trying to make pixels look HD. It just doesn't work in my opinion. But if you guys want that, then by all means leave this on. And I think it also makes Crisis Core look a lot better with like the lines, the characters and stuff. To me, it's hardly much of a difference, especially if you have this 3 times, right? The resolution. So, but yeah. So I think honestly that's it, guys. That's most of the graphics. These are all here. If you guys want to use these, then you can. And then for the controls, obviously you can click on control mapping, and then from here you can map out your controls with your controller. If you're using a PS4 controller though, it should automatically detect it. I don't remember having to map out my controls for these, so you guys should be fine on that. But to load the games, you just click on load here, and then you go to where the game is saved at. In my case, it's no, not that one. Where are my games saved? Here we go. ROMs, ISOs, PSP, and then yeah. So PSP games are ISO files, so make sure you guys are downloading ISOs when you're putting those in there. And then when you click open, it should open up no problem. Okay, that's it for PPSSPP, and I think that's every emulator and every configuration that you can do with all of this. So with all that being said, guys, I'm not going to show you probably the coolest part, and unfortunately, this next part involves some money. Okay, Big Box is basically the next level up from Launchbox. It has everything organized like you have it here, but in a much cooler way. So let me open it up here real quick so I can show you guys exactly what I'm talking about, because it's actually really cool, and I think it's worth the investment if I'm being honest. And here it is. So in Big Box, you can do a plethora of things. You can choose the format in which you can see your games listed. So in my case, I have a format called vertical wheel, and it shows all the logos for the gaming consoles. And then once I click on the gaming console, it'll show all the logos of the games on the left here, and it shows details on the right side. And it's so good, guys. Like, it's awesome. Like, this is absolutely worth $30, and you can have it for you pay it once and you never have to pay it again, ever. Unless there's like a huge update to Big Box or something like that. If you want to update to the new version or whatever, then you might have to pay again. But if you want to pay lifetime with all the updates, it's like 70 something bucks. But $30 for a lifetime with no updates is perfect. Like, honestly, I don't know what kind of update would make this any better, because this is awesome. Like, if I'm being super for real. But yeah, guys, so if you guys decide to do the investment to get this, do it. Like, honestly. So I'm going to explain some specifics here on how to get all this set up, exactly how I have it set up here, including all the sound effects, the music, and stuff like that. So let me think. First things first, if you want to use your controller to navigate the menus here, initially you can't use the keyboard to navigate through the menus. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the... hold on a second. Let me go back to this. Um, I think if you hit escape on your keyboard, it'll go to the options here, and you just go click up and keep going up until you hit to where is it? Oh, right. Go to options first. You hit enter. Then you go up. Go to controller. Click on this and click on enable game controllers. If you do that, it'll allow you to do this. I'm using my PS4 controller now. It allows me to go up and down. Hitting the back button is the circle button, so I hit circle and it goes back. To click on things, you hit X, and that's it. So that's how you use your controller for Big Box. It's really awesome. Um, that's the great thing about Big Box. You can use your controller to navigate the menus. You could have background music like I have playing here, which I'm going to explain in a second. And you can set up your menus in any way that you want. So let me go to options here real quick. If you go to views here, this is where you set up how you want your games to look, how you have them organized and stuff like that. So there's a plethora of options that you guys can choose from here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the one I have selected already are my favorites. There's also an option where you can have a list on the left side, and it only shows the game cover on the right with the details. And I mean, yeah, like there's a plethora of options here that are already pre-filled in, and online there are even more customizable options that you can do. So those you can download directly from, I think, Big Box's forums. They have like a whole section for those. If you guys want to get real fancy with how you want to make Big Box look, but yeah, there's a whole mess of themes that you guys can download. I decided to stick with the standard theme, and I chose the vertical wheel presets or themes for the consoles listed here and for the games themselves. And honestly, it looks really cool. Like, I love it. It's awesome. In terms of getting music on here, once you go to your Launchbox folder, there should be a folder called backgrounds. I'm sorry, not backgrounds. Well, actually, first you have to enable the background music. Let me show you how to do that first. Let me see. You go to options here. Go to, let me see, enable. Yeah, here we go. So you go to sounds and you go to enable background music. Okay, and that's it. So once you do that and you exit out of the Big Box, it should create a folder called music, and in there you can go to click on the background folder, and then from there you can just dump in as many song tracks as you want, and it'll select it from the. I think it goes in order. It goes from the top to the bottom of your list. For music. If you want to shuffle the background music, there's an option for that here too, and it just shuffles in any random order. So I've had occasional times where it would play the same song twice or whatever, but it's super rare and it works awesome, right? You can change the master volume on the bottom here. If the navigation going up and down or selecting stuff is too loud, you can adjust that here. I put mine to 60 and 50 because I put custom sound on it. I don't know if you guys recognize the sound effects here, but these are from Mega Man X, and you can put custom sounds yourself if you want. You don't have to go on the internet to find the default sound option or anything like that. You can put it in yourself, and it's awesome. So I'll show you guys how to do that real quick, and we'll get started with that. So yeah, let me explain the music options, because in my opinion, that's probably the coolest thing about this. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your Launchbox. Wherever you save your Launchbox in, you're going to go to that folder. And once you click on Enable Background Music, you should have a new file here called Music and Background. And see right here, this is where I have all my music stored. Okay. I don't know if there's a method for you to like have music when you go into a certain like platform, for example. Like if I wanted to go into Nintendo DS, I can put like the Nintendo DS music here or something like that when I click on it or whatever. But I haven't tried it myself, and from what I've read, if you guys put music in these files here, whatever music, let me rephrase that. If you guys put music here, but you also put music out here where the background music is, this background music will always overlay the platform music, which is kind of whack. I haven't tried it out myself yet, so I don't know how true that is, but if you guys want to try it yourselves, you can. You can always just delete the music file afterwards anyway, so... but for me, I'm okay with just having some music playing in the background while I'm selecting stuff. Yeah, so that's how you put music in there. Once you start up Big Box for the first time, it's going to have this startup sound, which in my opinion is kind of whack. Okay, So if you want to get rid of that, there's a, let me see. Oh, yeah, in Big Box, there's an option for you to disable the startup sound. Okay, so you can do that if you want, and it'll just get rid of it, right? So now to add custom sound effects and stuff like that, that's where things get really cool. Okay, so to set custom sound effects and stuff like that, you can go to Sound here, and the one I made here is called Mega Man X. The file name that you can use for that can be really anything. I used Mega Man X and it showed up for me and stuff. So, but if I were to click on one of these defaults that came with the big box, let's see if it loads up. So you need 4 files, and they all need to be .wav forms. Okay, so if you want to use like Premiere Pro or really any other editing program and just export the audio file, um, that's what I did. I used Premiere Pro and I just exported them as WAV files, and I named them exactly as each of these are. So I have one for back, for pressing back, for moving up and down, for selecting something, and then the startup menu when I boot up Big Box. I decided not to have a startup sound because I think that's kind of whack. I mean, I'm sure I'll have one at some point, but anyway. Make sure that all these are like a second long, so that way it's not like too long and it won't start too early or too late or anything like that when you guys are navigating. Yeah, so once you guys get that folder set up with all these .wav files and you exported them with whatever you wanted, the sound effects, um, just drag it into the sounds file, and then when you open up Big Box, it'll give you the option to select whatever folder you named it, right? So that's how I got the Mega Man X sound effects here. I just searched up the sound effects on YouTube. I converted the video into an MP3, and I just edited it, and I cut and pasted all the sound effects that I wanted, and I exported each of them individually, and then I put it in a folder, and that's how I got this, right? Um, and yeah, so that's how I got those sound effects in there. You guys can use any sound effects from any game you want, from anywhere. Doesn't matter. You can use that. You can also use the preset ones if you want. The default one is pretty cool. But if I'm being honest, I like having my own unique sound effects. Um, but yeah, so that's how you put background music. That's how you put different sound effects in there. And what else? Am I missing something? You guys can also determine what box art image will show up for all of your games and stuff like that. So sometimes when you import a game to Launchbox, uh, it will not show up like a box image or stuff like that. There's videos on YouTube on how to fix that, but the easiest way to do it is to just click on the game itself, click on edit here, the pencil, and then just reword how you wrote the name of the game. Because most of the time what will happen is if you wrote the name of the game kind of funky, it just won't pull up the data for it. But if you respell it and you put it right, you're going to hit search metadata here, and it'll drop down here and it'll show the game. And then when you click on that, you're going to go to images, you're going to hit download media, and then from there, then it'll update the cover art for it and all that stuff, right? Then once you hit OK here and you hit X, it's going to pre-fill it in with the box art here. Now to change this image to something else, all you have to do is save the image that you want to change it to, click on add image, go to where you save that image that you want to change to, and then it'll show up here. And by default, it's going to have that image as box front. So if you want it to be the front of the box art, then make sure that it's set to that. If it's not, go to box front images, box front, and that's it. After you do that, though, you have to remove the image that you don't want. Okay, because if you don't, what will happen is it'll just remain the same, or it'll flip between the two of them, which is kind of weird. I don't know how that works, but just to save that, if you guys don't want to lose the original file, though, you can right-click it and click Save Image As, and just save it somewhere, so that way if you need it at some other point, then you can go back to it and stuff. But that's what I do in the case that I need a backup for it, in the case that I change my mind or something. But that's how you do that. You got to make sure it says box front, and then get rid of the one that was originally there that also says box front. When you guys are going through and navigating the big box and selecting your games, you notice that there's a background that shows up whenever it goes to a selected game. To change those backgrounds, you have to click through this and make sure that when you get to the images that say fan art background, these are the images that show up when you hover over the game that you're on. If you want to change these, or you feel like some of them are kind of ugly and you don't want them, then just simply click on remove image here, and they won't show up again. Um, if you want if one of your games doesn't show a fan art background and you want it to, you click on add image here, find the image file that you want to show up, and then it should show up here. And then click on this, go to what was it? Background images, and then click on fan art background. And then once you do that, the next time that you boot up Big Box, that's the image that'll show up all the time. If you have multiple fan art backgrounds, it'll just randomly select from any of them each time that you hover over the game. Most of these are pre-filled out. Once you download the metadata, it should have like at least 3 of them. Sometimes some of them only have 1, some of them have none. For the ones that have none, you literally just add the image, click on fan art background, and that's it really. And once you hit OK, you have to open up Big Box, but you have to go into the settings and then refresh the image cache. Otherwise, it won't update all the image files. And I'll show you guys that after I show you one last thing here. For examples like Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6 on Super Nintendo, for those of you that don't know, when they came out in America, they were known as Final Fantasy 6 was known as Final Fantasy 3, and Final Fantasy 4 was known as Final Fantasy 2. Because in the US, we never got Final Fantasies 2 and 3. I know that's a mouthful, it makes no sense, but that's how it works, right? So in this case, I wanted a custom box art for Final Fantasy 6 and Final Fantasy 4 because the default box art for those are, in my opinion, kind of ugly, and I never liked them, right? I always like the official Japanese art for those. So when I want to select my games in Big Box, these are the box arts that show up, right? So if I wanted to change the box art, I just click on it, go to the pencil here on the top, go to images, and some of these have fan art box arts. If you just keep scrolling, you might just find like a fan art box art for these. That's how I found the one for Final Fantasy V. This one right here was already in the metadata. I just had to click on it, make it the default box art, box front. I click on that and I get rid of the other one. I hit OK, and then it'll automatically update to the new one, right? And it's awesome. It's super cool, man. Like I think it's the coolest thing that you have this much customization with stuff like this. Because I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy VI. It's like my favorite Final Fantasy ever. It is my favorite Final Fantasy, right? So for stuff like this, it's super awesome. And another thing you can do for a game like this, when I added it, the clear logo wasn't this. It was the default Final Fantasy III logo for America because that's how it looked in the US, right? So what I did was I looked online for the Final Fantasy VI logo. When you guys are doing clear logos, make sure it's a PNG file, okay? That's transparent. Otherwise, it won't. It'll show up like a box. Okay, so make sure it's a clear logo, transparent PNG, stuff like that, right? So what I did was I looked for Final Fantasy VI's Japanese logo, and I found it. Saved the image. I added the image here, and I clicked on this, made it clear logo, and then I got rid of the other logo, right? Then when I hit OK, once I go to Big Box, it should no longer show that Final Fantasy 3 logo. It'll show this logo instead. And whew, that's a mouthful, but that's it. Like that's how you customize these things. That's how you change the box art. That's how you change the logos if you want to. Um, and yeah, guys. Honestly, I think that's it. I think I've rambled long enough. This video is going to be really long, and I don't know how I'm going to cut all this down in a matter of 40 minutes, 50 minutes. I mean, people click on these for an in-depth explanation, right? I guess. So hopefully it helps some people out, and hopefully, it was a detailed explanation, right? Because this video is already long enough as it is. So, but that's it, guys. If you want to just use Launchbox, yeah, just right-click on your game, hit play, and it'll open up the emulator that you had it for. If you want to use Big Box, I'm gonna open up Big Box here in a second, and just go down the list of some of the things I've had. And show you guys some examples of things that I've changed. Let me see here. So yeah, like I said, so for Super Nintendo, I changed the logo for Final Fantasy 4, which is Final Fantasy 2 originally. I changed the one for 6, and I'm pretty sure that was it. Those are the only ones I changed. But now, as you can see here, it shows the box art that I changed it to, and the logo that I changed it to as well. So if they're not showing up and they're not changing, make sure to go to options here and go to image cache and then refresh all images. Okay, so that'll refresh everything to reflect anything that you may have changed, and it'll update all the images that you have changed, right? I had to figure that out on my own, and it's a good thing I did because I got really nervous. I was like, no, like I'm here changing all this, and it took so long, and it's not even showing up, right? So don't panic. Just refresh the image cache, and it should reflect everything that you might have put in here. Um, Another thing I did for the Pokemon games for the DS, I found this guy on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube, on DeviantArt, that made custom logos for every Pokemon game, and it looks so awesome. Like, look at this for Black version, Pearl version, Soul Silver. These are the coolest things ever. I'm gonna see if I can credit him in the description box so that you guys can see it too, because it's really awesome. Like, it's yeah, mad props to whoever he is. I can't remember the name of the guy right now, but I'm gonna probably put it on the screen or in the description. But yeah, mad props to him. It was really awesome. Um, Let me see what else. Oh, this is a big one. So, as some of you might know, the Mega Man games have a track record or the original classic games on the NES have a huge track record of having the ugliest box arts that have ever famed any video game ever. I mean, they're classics, you know, like most people like them because of how wacky and awful they look, right? But for me, I just can't stand them. They're just awful, right? So what I did was when I right-clicked on each game, they had custom fan art box art for every game individually. I didn't even have to look for this. I didn't even have to look any of this up on like Google Images or anything like that. It was already in the metadata, and it had one for every single game, and they look so good. Like, look at this one for the first game, the second game, the third game. The third game is my favorite. Like, look at that box art. It's so cool, man. And yeah, I don't know who made this exactly. It's probably the guy on the bottom right, Rev A or whoever that is, right? But he has one for each game, and they look amazing. So I was able to do that by, like I said, going into it, changing that image to box art, and then refreshing the image cache in Big Box itself, and then voila, it just shows everything exactly how it's supposed to be. Um, on the bottom of the box art is the game title screens, which is awesome. Sometimes the metadata won't pull up a game title screen, so what you want to do is you're going to upload that image in Launchbox when you're editing it, and what you're going to click on is you're going to click on screenshot and then game title. Okay, and then it should show up as the game title on the bottom here. Okay, so if you ever have anything missing, those are the main ones that you're gonna have to worry about: the box art, the game title, and the game logo, which has to be clear. Okay, it has to be a PNG. And yeah, they also have other whatchamacallit, they have other icons for these, but I decided to use the ones that were on the original box arts because they look pretty cool, especially the first game. Looks awesome. So, what else? I feel like there's like maybe one or two things that I might have changed here. Oh yeah, for Game Boy Advance, these are some of the other Pokemon ones that I was talking about earlier. It's just so good. Like, look at this, man. Like, awesome. Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green, Sapphire, like all of them, man. And it just looks so good. Um, in my case with Sonic Advance 2, I once I put it in the launch box, it ended up being a Japanese logo instead of an English one, which is kind of annoying, right? Okay, so if that happens, what you want to do is the same thing. Just look for the image on Google, save the image as, and then when you add it there, you just put it as clear logo, delete the other one, and then it should update to this one. Okay, so if you guys get any funky stuff like that, that's how you edit it. You have to open up Launchbox first. From there, you can customize everything about Big Box before going into it, so that way everything looks good. And yeah, really awesome. You see, in this scenario, Metroid Zero Mission doesn't have a background here. I could just look for one online and then add the image, go to fan art background, and then it should show up here. So just some prime examples for you guys. But honestly, guys, I think that's it for this tutorial. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was productive, informative. Not productive, but productive is, I guess, what I'm trying to be. Trying to explain to you guys all this. I already have a headache just trying to go into this stuff, but hopefully it helps at least one of you guys out. So I'll see you guys next time in the next video. Take care. Goodbye. Hey guys, post-recording Waldy one last time. I completely forgot to explain how you can set up hotkeys to exit out of the emulators once you enter them in Big Box. So let me open Big Box here so I can explain to you guys how to do that. It's actually really awesome. You can configure it to basically whatever you want. Let me see here. So go back into options here. So what you're going to want to do is go to the bottom here, go to controller mappings, and press up, and you should see a section where it says close the active window. So basically, when you open an emulator, it'll obviously open up the emulator with the game, right? But if you want to close it out without needing to hit Alt-Enter or F11 or whatever it is to get out of full screen mode, you can configure it to whatever you want to immediately close out the application, and it goes back into Big Box, right? So to do that, I put it as select R2 on my controller. If you want to put it as like L3 and R3 pressed together, you can do that too. So this is how you map. You just got to click on this and then map it to whatever you want, and that's it really. It's kind of finicky with some emulators. I would recommend that you put in the emulator itself for each emulator to boot up at full screen at all times. So that way it'll just you never have to hit Alt-Enter for any of them. Some of them don't have an automatic full screen thing, so you'll have to automatically set it up yourself. One of those examples is Melon DS. There's no option for it to just automatically go into full screen, so I think I have to hit Alt-Enter for that one. And yeah, let me just show you a quick example of that because it can be kind of finicky. So let me open up Kingdom Hearts here. Hit play. And immediately it's going to open up the emulator with the game already open, right? So this is what it looks like. And as you can see, it's not in the full screen. So if I hit Alt-Enter, that's how you get it in there, right? The problem is if I were to hit select R2 now, it's not going to close out all the way, or it's just not going to do anything. So if you enter an emulator where it doesn't open in full screen automatically, you have to do it manually. You have to hit Alt-Enter again, and then press select R2 or whatever configuration you put. As you can see, that's how that worked. So just keep that in mind if it's something that doesn't automatically go to full screen. And then for Duckstation, that one's kind of finicky too, and I'm going to explain how to get out of that one because I've tried to in the past and it's just really weird. So let me open up, I don't know, Spiral Year of the Dragon or something. So open this up, and Duckstation opens up in like 2 seconds, which is awesome. So as you can see here, it opens up this. But if I were to hit this opens up in full screen automatically. You can set it up that way in Duckstation. But if I were to hit select and then R2, what it would do is it would try to get out of full screen mode, but it wouldn't close the application. And then suddenly you can't see your mouse and you can't exit out of the emulator, and it's kind of scary, right? So to avoid that, you just hit Alt-Enter to get out of full screen, and it's going to go all black. But then from there, you can hit select R2, and it'll close it out like that. Okay, so I think Duckstation is the only one that has ever given me that issue, but I'm just giving you guys that heads up now in the case that you guys decided to use Duckstation. For anything else, you should just be able to hit whatever hotkey you put it for, and then it'll just close it. If it, for whatever reason, it doesn't, make sure you exit out of the full screen first, and then hit the hotkey configuration. Okay, so but that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If it helps, please leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So take care.
You fools must all have a death wish. Witness this invincible battleship built by the hands of a genius. Its power unmatched throughout the universe.
All right, Eggman. Let's get this party started.
Wow! We're flying way high!
Better not fall!
Come on, this is nothing! Let's keep moving!
Get away from the marker! The cannons are aiming this way!
There's more? Level up! Go! Yes! They're firing at us! Dodge the bullets by moving up and down! Here it comes! Move down! Yes! Let's go up! Yes!
together. Let's do it. Ready.
The minerals mined here are essential for space development. If you don't put down this rebellion, the Jacob project could be in danger. You found a rare metal. With it, you can make a new chip.
Give me a hand.
Here I come!
Your turn. Here I come. Here.
unit will set off an explosion. That's our cue.
The diversion will allow us to infiltrate.
Right. I'll set the bomb inside the fortress. You'll charge the front gate and...
Uh-huh. And?
Indulge yourself.
You got it. That's what I do best. Come on, B-Unit.
Activating combat mode.
Later! Yeah!
Welcome to the Gadgetron Help Desk. We are here to offer you advice during your interplanetary travels. The Help Desk is a free service provided by Gadgetron Corporation. You can interrupt Help Desk messages by...
I'm here off the coast of Panama, where we just recovered what we believe to be the coffin of legendary explorer Sir Francis Drake, who was buried at sea over 400 years ago. Are you sure you want to be defiling your ancestors' remains like that?
You make it sound so dirty. Besides, thought you didn't believe me.
Well, I did do my research, and apparently Francis Drake didn't have any children.
Well, history can't be wrong, you know.
How the hell they find us out here?
These guys have been tailing me for weeks. Thought I lost them.
What'd you do to piss them off?
It's kind of a long story.
These guys don't like you much, do they?
Less talking, more shooting. Hurry up, Sully. Oh, no